Good day and welcome, America and beyond. I'm Tom Donahue for Tom Donahue Reports and The Briefing. Well, I know we're getting close to Devil's Day, Halloween, okay? And Halloween havoc with this political season. And it's almost like living in an insane asylum. It's the theater of the absurd. Things are so bizarre and bonkers. Yes, Trump, the word weird does come to mind, and I know it really affected you, but you are weird. And so is the knucklehead and Harris. You know, the knucklehead Walls, and he calls, self-described knucklehead, so that was a good thing. He recognized that. Strange, wacky, it's like Stern's Whack Pack. Remember those strange and ridiculous days? So we have insanity versus ineptitude. And Harris is at the Ellipse, the same spot that Trump gave his talk to Stop the Steal rally, which became a rioter's paradise. It wasn't a love fest. There's crowd estimations, and again, they could be adjusted, based on, but just the numbers I'm hearing, Trump's Stop the Steal was somewhere in the range of 52,000, and Harris is over 75,000. Very short, concise, to the point, a speech. And I know Trump said that his crowds were bigger than Obama's. It was bigger than Martin Luther King. Well, Martin Luther King had 250,000. And Trump's inauguration came nowhere close. This obsession with crowd sizes. Well, I guess there's obsession with other sizes too, which we'd already talked about Arnold Palmer's putter. Well, I didn't talk about it. I tried to explain, without getting too crude, how bizarre Trump was. And then, speaking of Halloween havoc, what is this fixation that Trump has with Hannibal Lecter? I mean, he doesn't tie it to anything. I have no idea. I don't think anybody does as to, and he's a very fine person. Well, he was a movie character. It wasn't based on a real life story. And what has it got to do with political campaigns or life in general? I don't know. I mean, one thing if that was his favorite actor or something, and he just kind of mentioned it in passing, but and then how about all the weird stuff with the cats and the dogs and the pet eating and no evidence whatsoever. Whether it's the governor, the mayor, you got Republicans, you got Democrats, you got run-of-the-mill citizens, and there's just no evidence of that. So why does Trump have to resort to the most outlandish, the most outrageous, the most crazed stuff? I guess it's a deflection because he's conditioned the general population and the media, yes, the media, to accept this as the norm. It's normalized insanity. It's normalized mental derangement, instability. I mean, wait till someday someone breaks down the psychology of Trump. And it doesn't have to be this way. It really doesn't. It boggles the mind. Speaking of the mind and speaking of mentality. And then how about Biden? He's trying to castigate and he's trying to, criticize and give kind of a rebuke of some of Trump's speakers at Madison Square Garden, MSG, and just some of the comments from J.D. Vance and various others, and including Trump, and the Puerto Rico, the island of garbage. And then Biden comes out. I think it was slippage, because you're speaking of mentality, speaking of minds, you've got a deranged guy, you got a demented guy, and you have a woman that's word salad galore, but can give a pretty decent speech. I mean, she's really grown into this role. It kind of surprises me, but there's enough criticism for Kamala the chameleon. And yes, she's still heinous Harris. I mean, I can't get away from that. She's making it sound like her campaign is a unity message. She has reached out to Republicans. She has reached out to independents. She has not used the term garbage or deplorables or anything relating to MAGA per se or Trump followers or supporters or voters. So she's been much wiser than hellish Hillary. And so I mean, this campaign just has been running much more smoothly than Hillary's campaign, the Biden basement campaign, and certainly Trump's campaign. And she has had big rallies. She has had big packed houses, and it's not AI generated, and it's not just everybody bust in. There is a groundswell of support and enthusiasm for her, not initially, but it grew, and people realized that this was the best way to beat Trump. And all this MSG, Madison Square Garden, and that was garbage, except for his speech and Melania. I mean, he seemed normal compared to the wackos and the weirdos and just, the House of Horrors that preceded him. And that includes Tucker Carlson. And you know how people want to make fun of Hillary's laugh or the cackle from Harris? You ever listen to Tucker Carlson? You want to talk about a giddy girl? I mean, what a creep. I never liked him when he was the bow tie bozo, but these days, he's just, that's the epitome, the poster boy or girl, the poster boy for the fake conservative of today, okay? He was the bow tie bozo that used to be on CNN. He filled in for Pat Buchanan on Crossfire, and he was on PBS, and he made the rounds, and he was part of that established, old school Republican guard, silver spoon in his mouth, comes from a very, wealthy background, and most things were just served on a silver platter for him. And here's a guy that was revealed through the text from the Dominion lawsuit against Fox News, that he and others, but his own words regarding Trump was he was a demon and he hated him. Okay? So anyone that thinks you're a demon and they hate you, how are they so prominent in helping to select the VP? Remember, it was Tucker Carlson and it was Don Jr., the high-tech billionaire backers that pushed for Vance, okay? And Vance, just like Tucker Carlson, in his private text, not just 2016, and Tucker Carlson, those texts that we were aware of, was right after J6. So what he had to say before that, and I mentioned this in prior podcasts, that if you only knew what these people thought of Trump privately, you'd be somewhat astonished. So he's the ultimate opportunist. And you know that most of what he says he doesn't believe. And he's just trying to make more money and get more headlines and build his little media independent operation. But he's just one of the most sleazy, scummy, yucky people, okay? They're going to be the ones that condemn and judge on the air, and they have no credibility. But yeah, Tucker Carlson, you would think that Trump, being kind of a macho kind of guy, likes the macho kind of guys, the strong men, and Tucker Carlson, he's the polar opposite of that. Just all you got to do is listen to that laugh. And that tells you everything about the guy. Okay? Here's another thing I want to reinforce as a reminder, and some of you are new to the stream or to the podcast or to the briefing, but Tucker Carlson, and he had to admit to this on the air. So this, I don't come up with just mere conjecture. I don't have conspiracy theories. If I'm going to do something that's conspiracy related, it has to be fact based. Now, it might not be concrete, but there's at least a compelling narrative, and there is some documentation and research that I'm presenting. But yeah, Tucker Carlson was, and to this day I believe still, a very good friend of Hunter Biden and their neighbors. And he actually, with Hunter going through all these, the sescapades and the drugs and the all the laptop, everything, he goes to Hunter Biden to get a recommendation for his daughter to get into Georgetown University. Now, isn't it, pretty darn peculiar? Saying one thing on the air about the Bidens, but he's great friends with Hunter Biden. That's why I say that when you refer to these people, whether it be the left or the right, these people that are in prominent places in the media, prominent places in our political realm, they're weird. They absolutely are. Yeah, so he's the poster child for everything that's detestable, that is hypocritical, that is lacking credibility, character, morality. And the latest thing, and I didn't even want to waste time on it, but we did post the story at TalkStream Live. And the story is posted at the Drudge Report and various other outlets. But what you might find interesting here, with Halloween, and I'm putting the final touches on this on Halloween Eve, Devil's Day, and no, it's not an innocent holiday, okay? And I don't celebrate it, and I don't participate. I'm not going to judge others, it's entirely up to you. But this is an article that we want to talk about a weird, okay? And it's not that I don't believe in supernatural things and in the spiritual realm, and there's light and dark forces and all that. But this guy, this story that he's conveying, not so fast. And this is the headline. Tucker Carlson says demon attacked him, and he was bleeding in his bed with claw marks and scars. Well, first thing I would do is say, show us the scars. Okay. And have them scientifically analyzed. And I'm not talking about, your cat or dog may have scratched you, as they were climbing over you. Okay, that's not going to work. But yeah, Tucker Carlson says a demon attacked him. Yeah, like the demons are really worried about the work that Tucker Carlson does for the conservative right. Yeah, sure. He's doing more damage, more destruction than almost anyone. He's on the level of demolition derby like Alex Jones. Okay, give you a little bit of truth and then a whole lot of fiction, and just stir it on up and get the controversy going and put us on the right track and then switch tracks and that's the way it works. Is that you've got these infiltrators, these opportunists that just are worried about making money and maybe they believe in some of the conspiracies, and maybe they believe in some of the stuff, the information they convey. Not really, to any great degree. Okay, everything I say and everything I convey, I try to be as truthful and on point as possible, or I'm not going to say it. I'm not here for entertainment value. I'm not here to just get a bunch of clicks, and social media ranking. I don't even participate actively with Twitter, X, or Facebook, or YouTube, or my podcast is on a lot of different platforms, and I'm on a lot of streaming platforms. But the social media, it's just not my thing. Tom Donahue reports, the briefing. Have a great day.